All right, Nick, you got the time on you?
I hope so. No, actually.
Okay, so we'll just say it's Zero Dark 30 time. We're going to talk about Kathryn Bigelow and her film Zero Dark 30, which was nominated for I think it was 5 Oscars and took away 1, nominated for Best Picture, her follow-up to the Best Picture winning Hurt Locker, and a very, very difficult project to tackle, I would say.
This is one of those movies where I think the audience perception of what it was and what it is kind of ruined it a little bit.
I think so too, and I think part of that might have to do with the timing. So we're going to kind of break that down and discuss Zero Dark 30 on Kyle and Nick on Film today, and really deep dive into what this film means and what it meant when it came out.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, and today we're going to talk about Zero Dark 30, starring Jessica Chastain. Did I get it right?
Chastain, yes.
Chastain. This is the true story of one person's almost obsessive-compulsive dealings. Well, she's assigned to the case, so it's actually the government actually endorsing her, obsessive-compulsive, looking for Osama bin Laden.
Mm-hmm. And I thought a lot about a previous film we talked about here on the show, Zodiac, while we were going through this film, both in the length of the journey. Like the minutia itself being incredibly different, but just like a person's obsession, and we really get that with Maya's character arc as she goes throughout the film. She has a personal reason to be looking for this the way that she is, and a personal reason to want to finish this journey.
So here you have a lot of conflicts for this character Maya. She has to overcome. She has to overcome the obstacles of really performing her job, obstacles of being probably the only woman every time in a board meeting, so she constantly has to prove herself, and the constantly of trying to navigate and strategically find Osama bin Laden and people believing her.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And the film was actually originally written, the first draft of the screenplay was written about the 10-year search for Osama bin Laden that went unsolved. And actually, before the film was shot, the film had to be rewritten because the actual events of the film took place, and had to change it to about the actual hunt and capture and killing of Osama bin Laden. Very interesting time period to drop this film, I feel, because it was so fresh in the public eye. You want to make sure you get your details right, but there was also a lot of questions about how should this have been revealed? Should this have been kept more secret? And how it was accomplished, I guess, as well.
Yeah, and the other perception is when this film came out, people kind of, guys, almost it's going to be like a Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Rambo 3, Commando, smash 'em up, bang 'em, blowing everything up, and then we save the day. This is not it. And I think that was a minus to the movie, even though it's a phenomenal movie, the perception that this was going to be another action thriller, and then people realize it's not, and they stayed away from it.
Yeah, it's a methodical film, and I think if you've seen The Hurt Locker, you know that The Hurt Locker itself, I think, sold itself as an action film. I think the trailers for The Hurt Locker sold itself as an action film. I think that this is another movie that was released that didn't try to sell itself as that, though.
No, you get
I
the
didn't
idea
see that watching the trailers for this movie. I thought it was going to be more about the hunt, the cat and mouse game that was being played on both sides. And I was very interested in her character arc. I felt like we didn't really see the movie get going until about halfway through.
No, and that's after my third viewing of this, and I realized one of my big minuses when I first watched it is it slowly develops. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of establishing, character, establishing events. One of the great things about this movie, and I think it doesn't really acknowledge, whoever did the gaffing for this movie was far better than any. It is phenomenal gaffing. The lighting and everything.
Well, and a cool thing too about it that I learned is the production design too. Jeremy Hildy, this is his first credit as a production designer.
Okay.
He's only done it for I think 4 or 5 films. He had 3 months to build the compound itself, that were the bulk of the film. You can't fail the compound part of the film. And Hildy built that in less than 3 months and got it ready for
I'm thinking
those pivotal pieces.
who's the DP in this?
DP was Greg Fraser.
Greg Fraser. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking every time he set up the camera, this is phenomenal. I don't have to do anything because the lighting and everything in this. So whoever did that was just top notch.
Yep.
And that's what the things that comes out with me.
I remembered while watching, especially, we know where the film's going, so I don't think this is anything.
Right.
The compound sequence itself, the big action set piece, if we can call it, I remember thinking a lot about the darker scenes in the later seasons of Game of Thrones, like how they were criticized for their darkness. This film had kind of a similar thing to it, but it was never... You can't criticize the way the darkness works because that's what they were dealing with in the film. We used a lot of night cameras to really get the brunt of it. It felt very documentary-ish, and that's one thing I love about Kathryn Bigelow's later films, because there really is that divide in her work, where she did the more fantastical, the Point Breaks, the Near Darks in her early career, and then she did the Hurt Lockers, the Detroits, and the Zero Dark 30s in this latter half. And I think, Greg Fraser probably, was very proud of the fact that he could walk onto a set and really utilize the very technically well-made film before him.
So this is I think this is a lot more story about her rather than the circumstances that led up to the inevitable of him finding him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that way, though, that's one of the things I wish we had gotten a bit more of, is I would have loved to have dived into Joel Edgerton's character's backstory a little bit more.
Yeah.
And really hers, too, because we see her through the mission. We get to see her as a character who I think is well-rounded, but we don't really get to dive into her background.
No, there's a great supporting cast. James Gandolfini's in it for a couple minutes, and he eats up the scene.
When we get her relationship, I really like the relationship with her and Jason Clarke's character. We meet in the first scene of the film. It's a very difficult opening to the film. And I liked that we built that relationship quick, so that way when it comes back multiple times throughout the film, it really works. We see a lot of relationships in the film, even if we don't really dive into the characters as well.
No, and Kathryn gets it. There's a great scene where the guys are, there's downtime, which there's a lot of downtime in the armed services, but they're just playing games, they're playing stuff, and here you have Maya, who's part of the group, but she's not really part of the group. And she stands aside, which is a great metaphor to the movie. Here's a person that planned it, coordinated it, discovered it, and she's in charge, but she's not really part of the group.
Yeah, and
Even
I think
in board meetings, she's not really part of the group either.
Yeah, she's always kind of on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And that's really apparent. I would have loved to have spent more time with her during the big sequence at the end, too, because we flash back to her a few times, but we're really focused in on what's going on, the action of the film, and I would have loved to have seen more of her reaction to what's going on and kind of dealing with that as she's going through it. Chastain is great.
I was going to bring up in additional, there's a great play with windows in this movie. Windows separating, as well as something to look into. There's always especially the car chasing and the interrogation room surrounded by windows. So Kathryn had a big fun playing with windows. There's a great scene of the guy had to leave his job and there's front of a window.
Yeah. Yep, very much, separation.
Yeah.
Like looking in but not being able to really enter. Yeah. And I think, that's very true, actually. That's a good point made about that, because I think, and a lot of it, too, spending time with Jessica Chastain's character, and we don't think about who's the planning person, because we celebrate the heroes, and they are heroes. They went and defended, and they took care of the job, and we'll have to always deal with, what's going on with that. Yeah. But we didn't really spend time with Maya. In fact, one of the guys who was actually on the team that executed the initial attack was, they called her the bravest woman they've ever met, the bravest person they ever met. And I think that's really true, because she had to put a lot forward, and she was always seen as that.
It's almost like she had to be, and there was really no option. She didn't have to be a strong force to get it done.
Yep, you got to kind of fight for your step in every little piece that you go for. So I thought Chastain was great in this film. I think she's another person who she can really do it all. We've seen her in horror movies, we've seen her in dramas, we've seen her do comedic work.
Molly's Game.
Yeah, we've seen.
When I did my St. Paul Filmcast, it was one of my top 20 films.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and I think
Aaron Sorkin
she never, she never takes away from the film that she's in. And I think even when you get a film like the incredibly troubled Dark Phoenix, like you can tell that she's putting forth the best performance she has given what she's working with. And I think this is another movie where we get to really see a lot through little speech, because we don't get the backstory, but we still feel like we know Maya as a character. Let's see. One other thing I really love about this movie is the music. And the reason why I say that is because it's so very reserved for the moments it's required. There's not a ton of music in the film. Alexander Desplat,
you're right.
The music for it, it really hits home when it needs to. Yeah. And it's so much powerful that you don't realize it's missing until it shows up, and then you kind of feel that oomph. You feel what you need to be experiencing. And I think there's a large part, again, like our compound scene, we don't really feel the music until the end, and then we realize what we've gone through. And I think Maya's journey is aided by the music. Maya's journey is aided by the way that she's in the thick of it. Something else I really loved about the film is primarily how it ends. The final few shots of the film.
It had to end it that way. It had to end. And I watched it again, and it's like, this is a very fitting ending where it's not one of those jubilation, kind of the...
It reminded me a lot of Captain Phillips's final few moments, in that we've gone through this journey, we've gone through this incredibly painful thing, and even if her part of the story is never really, she's in danger throughout the whole film, but we don't ever see action set piece with Maya so much, but we deal with I think like the emotional toll, the mental stress that gets put on a person when they have to deal with this every day for years.
Very well seen, and she hardly held back. With that. Yes.
Yeah. So all in all, I feel like the film's technically really well made. A great cast both in the front and the supporting roles as well. I always love these movies when someone has won like a Best Director Oscar and they can just put everybody in the film.
I have to agree. It is a very technically shot movie.
Yep.
Kathryn likes to do that space. She's actually got the material to develop space in her movie.
Yep. And being able to play with that documentary like style that she really has a strength with it too. And I like that she kind of presents the pieces and lets you do what you want with it. She did that with Detroit as well, where she really presents the situation, the facts, gives you the scenes, but never really presses on she doesn't really force an opinion,
Right.
She kind of just gives you what you need to go for. And this is a film too where it never feels like it's pushing Go America.
No, this is not like a propaganda.
It's critiquing while at the same time, celebrating the people that have given it all, that have really put forth an effort on that. And I think that's really strong. Overall, I really loved a lot about the movie. I just felt like overall it was way too long. We probably could have cut a good 35 to 40 minutes to get that thing under 2 hours. Because I think a bulk of what happens in the early part of the film is great character development, but it is at the loss of some of the pacing.
Long time to get there.
When you look at it compared to like a Zodiac, you feel the length of time that passed in Zodiac without feeling the burden of the pacing of the film.
The first act of this movie is the hardest to get over.
Yeah, we could chop out some stuff early on, but again, that's really just nitpicks for an overall really well-made movie that I enjoyed a lot more than I expected to.
Yeah.
So definite recommendation from me. What about you, Nick?
Oh, big fan of Kathryn Bigelow. So anything she does, phenomenal.
Keep giving her work.
Please do.
I want to see more films from this new version too, because I like.
And
a
you're
lot
right. She never
before.
gives even though the popcorn action flick, she never really gives a judgmental point of view.
Yeah, and that was actually one of my critiques of Point Break, was that I wanted her to kind of hit more. Yeah. I wanted her to hit more with like a who's right, who's wrong thing. And the way I walked away from Point Break, I was really frustrated by the fact that they're both really good guys and that they're both also really bad guys. Like I just really wanted an answer to her thoughts on the film.
They're both the same coin.
And the same thing with Near Dark, even though we present a fantastical thing of it, the vampire world, we get enemies through the lens of our heroes, but not really a right or wrong. So, Kathryn Bigelow, I think she's a fantastic director, and we can't wait to see what she does next. And hey, if you want to see what we're going to do next, you got to
or you want to be a part of it.
Yeah, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/KyleNick on Film. You can even help us decide what's next if you join that Patreon tier. We have tiers as low as $1 a month, and then you can be a part of the conversation. So, thank you guys for watching. Go ahead and click that like video, and I want to know your thoughts too on Zero Dark 30. This is my first viewing of the film, and so I really want to dig into it and discuss the many layers that are at work here in this film. So go ahead and give us your thoughts below, drop that like, and don't forget to share us on all your social media platforms so we can keep arguing about films.
I love that. Yeah.
Nick, where can we find you out and about?
St. Paul Filmcast. You can find it on wherever you find your podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify.
Wonderful. And you can find all my film reviews on goatfromreviews.com, where I love to argue with people. So go ahead and do that, because
it's a favorite.
It's good.
Talking movies is the best.
Exactly. So keep that conversation going. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.